Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today we have Anne Mills joining us. Hi, Anne. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on board and coming on and sharing your journey in building some tech for suits and sneakers. But I think it started out a little bit differently than that. So tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and where technology started for you.
That's such a good topic, and I've got to say I've learned so much over the years, and it didn't start out in such good shape. So the company itself started with the business name International Creative Services, and after the first 12 months I realised I couldn't get a trademark on that name, so it's evolved.
Too generic, maybe, yeah?
Yeah, they thought that people asked for International Creative Services, like you'd ring up somebody and say, could I have International Creative Services, please? But yes, I'm going, they seriously do not ask for that, but I wasn't going to fight. And I'm sort of glad actually, because I've realised that I have as much tech and strategy people as I do creative. So it's now called Suits and Sneakers. So that is more appropriate.
Yeah, I like the name. Okay. So tell me the thinking behind Suits and Sneakers.
It started as a little bit of an in-joke, I'll be honest with you, because in advertising and marketing, the account directors and sort of the grown-ups were always called the suits. Whether it's a man or a woman, you were still a suit. And the suit was, the sensible grown-ups, and then there was always the creative. And so I was going, well, now that I've got creatives and the suits, I was going, well, maybe it made it clearer that the sneakers were the tech and creative people. So, Suits is everyone who's strategy, keeping the job on track, project managers and stuff like that. And Sneakers, it's tech, creative and production people.
Anthony will fit in that bracket over there, I imagine.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think that's great. I've got to say, I sometimes are a suit and sometimes I'm a sneaker, and I never know which one to put on.
Yeah, I'll second that. I probably play a bit in that camp. So yeah, sometimes it can be. Today I'm wearing a DevReady t-shirt. We're not video recording at the moment, but we're going to start video recording the podcast again sometime soon. But yeah, so generally wear a t-shirt for these days, but yeah, then the shirt for other days. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. And sometimes I'll do like half and half. So I might have the high heels for business and a jacket, but then ripped jeans or, sort of where do I actually fit? Yeah.
Good. Suits and sneakers. So it's obviously bringing a bit of creative and a bit of strategy together. What do you actually deliver and what services do you provide?
Yeah, it's really about the people. So I originally built the whole thing because the best people in marketing and advertising were just getting lost. A lot of the typical big ad agencies are really looking for sort of more junior people at lower head hour rate. And
getting lost in the whole marketplace, really? Yeah, okay.
They were, and a lot of people just sort of, I guess they didn't have the ability to go and build a whole agency, and they didn't want to. And to market themselves, it was quite a bit of a job.
It's a job in itself, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And so I was feeling frustrated too that a lot of the best people were actually just disappearing out of it. And I thought I wanted to create one house where you can find all these really specialist people.
I get it.
And so it's been like amazing. I've had a really great start. Originally I thought that I would make it like a big directory. Yes. So it wasn't so much about delivering any of the services as a project, for example, and it was about, people finding the people and getting in contact through the big directory. But it's probably the reason we're here is to talk about my disaster, because I started building this really complex directory as if my brain was, sorting for talent. So it was quite detailed and it was covering businesses as well as individuals back at that time. Okay. And I spent every last cent I had, and it was like a really big job. And I was really trying to do it on the smell of an oily rag. I didn't have any capital. And so I was working away and then trying to put everything back into it. And I was doing that thing a lot of people do where you think, oh, I just need somebody cheap and I'll get them on Freelancer and Fiverr, and back in those days,
it's a place where a lot of people start. Yeah. Yes. Let's bring some resources and throw them on a project.
Yeah.
It's difficult to find people who do that stuff for you.
terrible. So I would say actually, I don't really know many people who have a really fantastic experience on that for bigger jobs, like tiny little tasks. Yeah, all cool. I actually am a bit of a believer that that's a little bit of a slave labour, modern slavery happening out of those platforms, and everyone competes.
Yeah, it's an interesting point of view that you have there. So
yeah, it's a bit controversial. I know some people who are getting a good thing out of it, and there's horses for courses, and I've used them myself. And, you know, for example, if I was getting a logo done, going to 99 Designs, it's not a bad option.
Yes, correct.
For other things, no. So I'd be very picky about what I use it for. And I guess I was just wanting an alternative in the end where you could actually get the experienced people, because it's a bit of crowdsourcing going on there, and you don't really know what you're getting.
No, you really have no idea. So you just hope the crowdsourcing and the ratings work. And it's stable. Yeah, correct.
And the ratings are rated by people who don't know what they're rating.
That's the other problem.
That's the other problem. And of course, they're very good, those businesses, of mediating at the end. So if you haven't got the job that you expected, then, you know, there's some kind of negotiation that can happen. But I'm in a world where you have to get it right no matter what. And first go has to be right. You've got to meet a deadline. It's got to be professional. So I was going out.
We're part of that world in some reality.
Yeah.
So there's worlds out there that play in. I think this is why we started this podcast. It was just to share to people that are going on this journey to say, okay, yes, you can go on freelancer.com and hope and pray for the best. But if you haven't really managed or know how to pull something like this off, it's generally not going to play out too well for you. So you might get lucky, but in more likely terms, it's not going to end too well.
So in a lot of ways, this is the root of the problem I had. So all that sort of time and money I'd invested, you know, there were sometimes people would not be available beyond a certain thing, or I hit the edge of their capability. And then I was building like this really complex directory, if you want to call it that, through the WordPress tech. And I don't even know the money I got to in the end, but, you know, be in excess of 30,000 area. And so then I just needed a couple of last things done. And I got a person from one of those platforms to just move things onto the server and all that. So right at the end, right? So I was really excited, and I announced it to my market that it was coming. And
exciting time.
I was really anal about the fact that I had invested to me, that was a lot of money starting out. And I had...
but if you're starting out and you're a small business, investing 30 so grand is a bit of money, and
it was,
money. It is considerable.
As an MVP or something you want to get started. It's something that you've done well to get to that point on a bake of $30,000, really.
Yeah, it was actually going to be quite a good, cool thing. I'm saying going to because then it went pear-shaped. So what happened is I ended up getting someone that was probably, in the end, I look back, and he was probably quite good at doing WordPress styling and content filling, but not actually great with the host at the back end. And he ended up wiping over the whole host with an older version. And I'm going, oh, well, that's not good, but at least I've got 3 other backups. Don't worry, it'll be all fine. And then the next backup, we went to pull that up, and it was corrupt. And then I'm going, oh, that's not good. And then, but don't worry, I've got 2 others. And then the Dropbox version, somehow the syncing had lost, so there was only a really old version, and basically I lost the whole thing. So I've got to confess there were a few tears then at that time.
I can imagine, bloody hell. So all this time effort, you've announced it to the marketplace, and then you've basically lost all even. Oh, goodness me. Okay.
So
that's
to me, it was
not a fun story. No. So make sure your backups are working for anyone else.
Yeah. Wow. I think, having a test of those backups along the way is good, and also hiring the right people to do the right parts of the job is the crucial thing. So I've learned so much about it. And what I guess I had to do at that point was go, oh, my God, I don't have a business all of a sudden as well.
Yeah, correct.
So I decided the way around it was to teach myself enough to make a really simple WordPress website because I had no money left.
You started to learn this on your own now. I've heard this story before too, by the way, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and I'm really glad for it because now it's helped me be able to pick and choose people with the right skills for
wisely.
it. Mm-hmm. And I learned to build myself just a very basic sort of landing page, and I thought, okay, well, so the tech can't do the sorting, but I can do it in my brain. So in the end, I just said, I set up a format so that people could call me and then ask me what they want, and then I would go through my database and sort of connect up.
Oh, so you simplified it.
So you're matching.
Yeah. So I was hand matching. So it's actually nearly been 2 years now where the hand matching happened.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay.
And I think in the end, and so I have proof of the market now, and it has changed slightly from where it was because I think there's some people who just want you to hand them a bunch of names, and there's other people who just actually really need you to keep the whole job on track and guide the whole thing. So
makes sense.
It's sort of come up with both those things.
So have you been doing the manual matching for 2 years, or has it been 2 years since you did that?
I've been doing the manual kind of matching and project managing, for 2 years. And I've also, I guess, realised that there's sort of a recruitment type of role within that as well. So I've got I forgot what you call it. It's like a license where you can put people into a business and do part-time stuff or
temporary placements.
Recommend. Yeah, like a temporary placement, temporary project or however. It's a bit grey, what's a temporary placement and what's a freelance project. So I just wanted to be certain that we're doing them both.
The right thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the original idea was an automated matching service.
Yeah. And they could just help themselves. And I did nothing to do with it. But it's actually opened up a whole other market. So, of course, in the future, I'm still planning that there will be for the industries who know what they're doing. They could be a member and have access to all the people. So that would be like ad agencies and digital agencies and in-house client teams. So they can just search the database, find the people, contact them and negotiate themselves. So that's
somewhat like a recruitment / talent finding platform, really. But then it's like a marketplace too. You're matching people that need someone and you're bringing the resources to them. So it'd be an interesting sort of model that you're trying to do there. But I find it interesting that you basically 2 years ago you've been able to, and this is some good learning for people out there. Sometimes maybe you didn't necessarily need the technology. You need it. You've been able to operate without it. I think that's learning to take away from that because sometimes life happens for us. So you can learn something from that too, that maybe start doing it manually. That's not a bad way to look at it because you will evolve your model from there.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, I feel like I wished I knew this because I could totally have had the market proofed before I invested in the cash.
Invested budget there.
Yeah. And so now I've realised there's this sort of whole other market out of it. And I guess I'm now also in an in-between stage as well because the long game was to make it all, this big digital platform and, I've been quoted $500,000 sort of territory, 450, 500 for it. Epic. But what's happened in the scheme of things is I've worked out that I'm sort of halfway between the, ad agency or PR agency or whatever, where there's that hands-on personal service versus a directory or a system like Freelancer and 99 Designs where really that's very task oriented. But there's people who want the whole campaign done and there's also people who want just a person. So I feel like I'm in the middle of both, which is quite lovely.
It's probably a good place to be, right in the middle there, because it gives you obviously both angles. So
and there isn't anything like suits and sneakers now. So I feel like I accidentally came across this place. So now I need the technology to really help me because, I'm doing this matching thing, but it's very much reliant on me.
Yes.
So I'm at the moment in the next week, I'll be releasing a way that I can onboard more talent into a PHP coded, custom coded area.
Yeah, good.
And that helps me just scale.
Yep.
And yet that's not available to the rest of the world at this point. So this is purely for administration.
For you to optimize your
the personal thing. Yeah.
It allows you to scale a bit.
Yeah, okay, get that.
Yeah. And it also means when I want to share with a client a profile, I'm not having to go and hand build one in an InDesign file and like a review I was doing. Okay. So now I can send a link to the profile that they've established, and I can even talk to them and say, look, this one's a bit more automotive than you've got food on there. Can you just change some pictures up for the next few days while we're trying to get you an automotive job kind of
Interesting.
thing?
Okay.
So I can
work
do
with
in
the
between
creatives or the talent to basically manage their own profile.
Good point for people out there is once you have a base, you can start making those little improvements and iterate on it. You don't need everything to start with. And sometimes you don't even know what you need until you start using it.
Yeah, and I think I used to think that two types of technology, it was all or nothing. And I think that's been a really nice learning over the last 2 years of teaching myself so much. And this other world of the custom coding kind of thing had to live somewhere. And then, of course, even the tech people, they're either one or the other. And because I've now taught myself so much, I'm going, yeah, but isn't it just push a button on this one and it launches that one? And the customer doesn't know that this is two environments. It just feels like one. So surely, it's just there's got to be some actions that link the two together. So that has been a good interim. Yeah, and I think it's going to be great just to grow with what the market needs and my demand rather than go and build the whole big thing at the end. I think your point, Anthony.
Yeah, the thing we've seen with software is people want everything and they try and make it perfect. What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
And then as you're talking to people, so when we go through our DevReady process, we have numerous versions of workshops, one after the other, and we just keep evolving the idea.
And
unless we put a line somewhere, we can just keep doing that forever and not actually work on anything.
Never-ending process, right?
Yeah.
And then where we end up after workshop 5 doesn't look like where we started.
Correct.
But there's so many ideas you can do, and you have to limit to what your MVP is or what's the actual critical part of your idea, and then grow that with the demand you get from your users, or just little tasks, to make your job easier.
Yeah, so I'm now at make my job easier, and then soon I'm pretty certain that will allow me to then have a property that will make it easier for other people, like without me in the middle, so they could have a membership, I suppose, to access what I use every day kind of thing. I think that will work sooner than I thought. But I think there was something you were saying about that, like proofing out and market viability first. I do feel like I didn't really see how important that actually is. So even as a marketer now, and I have a client come to me and they want to jump through this whole this is not quite the same as your world, but parallel, where they want to go and do all these digital marketing and social media and blah, blah, blah. And, they want to jump into spending money. I'm very quick to say, well, hang on a minute. Let's just check, is this actually selling without marketing? And can you show me you've actually got a market before we go and spend all this money? Because good marketing actually will fail the business very fast if the product's not right or the positioning's not right. So same with you. You can go and spend a whole lot of money building tech, but if you haven't actually proven that there's a market for it somehow first, then you can really explode.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. So it's all about market viability. It's all about product market fit. Are there customers interested in your products? You've obviously designed a workflow that you perceive people to work within, but are they going to work within that? And you can do all that research up front. You don't have to wait till you have a product. And I think that's some of the most important points. It's never about the tech. It isn't. Like, the tech will help you at this point now scale things and improve things a little bit in terms of your operations. That's great. That allows you to maybe fill more roles, find more talent, bring more companies on board. It gives you a bit more flexibility to grow. But that's not where you started, or you're starting at bringing a technology piece where you probably weren't involved at all.
Yeah, that's right. I was. And and funny enough, I didn't then at all see myself really so head to head with the likes of 99 Designs and Freelancer and all of that, and nor the big ad agencies who are my, friends as well, because they want the people. But, there's a whole lot of brands in that middle ground that, they don't want the wastage in the big ad agency, and they want better quality than those other online things. So I just don't think I would have found that groove if if I had have had everything go so smoothly in the beginning. So I'm grateful now.
It's always a good learning experience, whether it's successful or a failure. The failure seem to teach us more than the successes.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And I even had a situation recently where a client I suppose they got in their own financial situation. So they tried to get out of the last stage of paying for some work. And I'm really thankful that I had really tight legal protocols around it all. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not a fun experience because someone was just being a bully and, really inappropriate with their behaviour. Terrible. Did not like it at all. And I said to myself, oh, God, imagine those people who are just those freelancers out here who probably don't even have any of that.
Yeah, correct.
And then in my head I went, right. So now that's something that the market needs is that protection from people. So now I've also, and I used to think it had to be a tech-based thing, but now I operate with an escrow service, if you know what I mean.
Okay,
so I hold the client's budget in place and I make sure everyone's meeting all their milestones, both sides, and release the funds accordingly.
That's actually a good little place to be because, even if it's a tech-based thing or a marketing thing, whatever it is, the challenge you have is, the tech team might deliver, the client might pay, or the tech team may not deliver at all and the client's paid. And that's happened too. So you pay for something and you haven't actually got what you needed nor wanted in the first place. And I think there's a bit of a balancing act there. So that's
it is. And I'm lucky, and you're probably a bit the same if you're a suit and a sneaker. You actually know how to help people get out of what they're doing to deliver.
Yes.
So that consulting and advice and solution problem solving is valuable to both sides.
Definitely.
Instead of it becoming a conflict, then you can say, well, you know what, if you just made that go like this and move that here and plug that in with that, then you'll be able to deliver and everyone will be happy. So I feel that's come out of this whole thing as well, this accident, this, devastating tech fail has actually been, really useful. I would not have had these insights and been able to operate. Yeah.
Oh, you've been very resourceful. So at the top. And I think when we're in the time of resourceful, like you can have X amount of money now. If you went and got investment, maybe you had $500,000 and build the platform to begin with. People have done this too, by the way. They've built the wrong product and it's completely failed. The product wasn't thought through, nor did it have a product market fit. So in reality, you're now in a better position, you know what the market needs. You are more investable because you potentially can see where the gaps are, where technology actually can fit. And I think there's a lot of opportunity when you get to that point. Sometimes people jump too far ahead and potentially you did it at the beginning, but you probably had a good learning and you've been able to actually take that, reflect upon it, and then go from there. So it's really good that you're in this position now.
No, thanks for that. I do actually really see the benefit in it now. And you've also just tapped onto something else that I think is really interesting. You know how you said about being investable?
Yes.
Like, I felt like I absolutely needed that to be able to succeed in the long run because of the scale of the tech investment.
Yes.
But what I actually have realized now is because I've done it in little steps and I still have the steps in the future planned, I'm planning that I could do it without somebody else investing because if you have an investor, that means they're taking something from you too. So they're going to take a share of profit. They're going to take a share of the business, which ultimately is a share of decision making, all those things. So I don't know for sure yet, but I think there's a very good chance that I can do quite a lot without having to have a partner or give away anything in investment.
And that comes through learning, right?
Do it without the investor, then that's the path. But there's also the benefit the right investor can bring to you, not just in the money, but the knowledge, experience, knowledge.
And speak to the market.
Another trade-off.
It's not different areas.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I'm looking to put on a board, an advisory board.
And that's a great place to start.
Profit share. Yeah. So they'll benefit from it. I'll benefit from their guidance and experience. But again, I'm not giving up any of the actual share of the company, if you know what I mean.
We have a great little podcast that I did with a man named Dan Muppy. I think it was, I don't know, it might have been episode 7 or 8 if you jump on our podcast. Talks about advisory boards. and structuring them to fit all the categories of business.
So I need that. Yeah.
So definitely worth one listening to.
Thank you.
I don't know which number it is, but I'll share it to you after the episode. But have a listen to that. He talks about covering off. Just off the top of my head, there was marketing and getting new customers. You need someone that can help you there. You need someone maybe from a sales perspective that's actually knows how to sell into an industry, a domain expert, which you would probably be in this case. I would say you're the domain expert, so you fill that role. You won't need that. Someone maybe financially, and then someone techie. There could be another one there, but I can't recall off the top of my head. But if you can fill those roles from an advisory board perspective, some of the advantages you'll see, if they're great people, they'll add value to the product. But then when you're time to employ someone, they can come from your advisory board or from their network. They are also potential investors in your product. So it is a good mold and way to actually build a team. Yeah,
I definitely agree. And at the moment, it's not like you can...
Yes.
At a startup phase, I'm still 2 years in. And because I've had no capital, really, I'm sort of kind of bootstrapping the whole way.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm still very startup. And it's not like those salaries with that amount of brain power that you could actually afford to have there. So this is really a good way. Yeah, so I'm definitely looking for a super smart, global level tech person along the way, which would be pretty cool.
But I'm sure we can help you out with that.
Yeah, so hook me up. So when you went through that list, I'm going, probably got all the other categories pretty handled, which is good.
Yeah, good.
And because it is starting to get like a global thing now, not just an Australian thing as well. Yeah, I need to be ready for the international thing. I am really lucky because even though in amongst all this disaster, I did get acknowledged for a couple of awards along the way.
Oh, very nice.
I know, I'm so lucky. Like one of them was Westpac's 200 Businesses of Tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And I was so lucky to get that. And one of the good things I learned out of that was, how to get into a global market.
Yes.
So I feel really grateful for that opportunity. But there are other grants and things out there as well that are really worth looking at. And so I think that's the next step for me as an option for, rather than looking for an investor who's take the IP, there's good grants and even
I'll ask the question because it's on my mind. What's the hesitation with an investor? Because there are positives from an investment perspective as well. I see some hesitation there, so I'd love to hear what it is.
Yeah, I've had a business partner before, and I think I'm just realised over the years that I play a game that not a lot of other people play. I'm very ambitious about this, and I'm very certain that it's going to be, a bigger thing than it is.
Yes.
And also, a lot of people with, unfortunately, women and older women have really statistically very low support in investment. So there's part of me that didn't want to have somebody else telling me what to do. I've had enough of that over the years. And I had a business partner that in the end had a mental health problem. So I don't think that was very fun. And, that I'll probably still be doing that job, have that business now if it wasn't for that. So it wasn't fun. And even when I've looked for investment, I've had people saying, this is the best presentation pitch deck I've ever seen. And this is going to work and this is just brilliant. But, we wouldn't invest in anyone that doesn't have a tech partner. And for me also, I didn't want the tech partner that's right in the beginning isn't the tech partner who's going to be right at the end of this as well. So I actually don't want to be limited in the way that the company grows by the person who's in the business with me as well. Yeah,
that's some interesting thinking. And I think people I think there was something you said there, the tech partner at the beginning may not necessarily be the one in it at the end. And I think that's a valid point to raise. And I think going down the advisory track might help you serve you better there because
that's what I think.
You can bring on more capable technical people in that level potentially rather than partnering with a backyard sort of development shop, which we see, which isn't maybe they're not being able to serve you long term. So it's good insight in terms of why you're looking not to take on some investment or at least have some hesitations about it. So Yeah, I think I would suggest keep looking, because there are good investors out there that have great networks that won't step all over you, that want to basically support you. And there are people out there that probably are the exact opposite of what you think. So I recommend keep looking out there.
You've had some good experience. Yes. Definitely, you'd be able to grow faster.
It's all about scalability, right? So,
it is, totally.
The time horizon shortens.
Correct.
We spoke to Hamish Hughes, who's an investor in Australia, and he only does a select number of investments simply because of how much time he has. Yes. So he tries to give his effort to all of them to help them grow. It's in his best interest to make them grow and succeed.
Yeah, that's
a different model compared to other people who just put in money and disappear.
Yeah, so it depends on for what you want long term. So there's
his model was, if I'm putting money into it, I want to see this thing succeed as much as you do.
Yeah, that's what you want.
I'll do whatever I can to make that happen.
Yeah, and I feel like that's for me what the advisory board idea is. If they can invest some time in the beginning and then be rewarded for that. Out of profit share. I think that would be that sort of like all gain and no risk sort of thing, Yeah. So it works for everybody. Yeah.
I'm touching that tech team that you mentioned. In the end, it won't be the same tech team.
Yeah.
In that point, probably ideally you'd want to start developing your own team and bringing that in-house.
I agree. Yeah. And I'd love to be able to, bring in the people that you need at the right time for where the market has taken you, rather than, someone up front. And right now, even good old WordPress, there's a lot can be done with that these days.
It's so customizable. It's unbelievable.
So we've explored where you've been, what you've done so far, and where you're going. So let's go way back to where it all started and how you originally got onto the concept of building a system or a website, and then how it all stemmed down and ended up in WordPress. How did it all come about? Was that based on advice, or you just landed in that?
That's a good question, because I'm sort of coming back to it and going, why did I particularly? Yes. I think it was mostly because I needed to feel that I could do a lot myself. And back in those days, like WordPress did a really good job at marketing itself as a platform where you could very easily do your own posts and change content and rewrite things if you wanted and all that. So the flexibility of it was there when, nothing else was really available. So, 2 years ago, you think back to what WordPress was, and I'll admit it was also only just fresh that you could do customized sections as well. Like it was, you sort of saw it as a templated thing, or you did straight, like full-on PHP or whatever the other systems are. And then, WordPress had this, it was just starting to be that you could do this customizable thing.
Yeah, so
ironically,
WordPress, a lot of plugins.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You can build an e-commerce website in WordPress. You can build a marketplace in WordPress with a plugin. Yeah. There's a number of things that can be done, which is great, but sometimes it goes too far and becomes clunky as a system. So
that's also knowing what plugins do what and how they fit together.
Correct.
Yeah, I've become personally really good at figuring out which plugins and find some that the developers have never heard of. And, so I feel like I understand, but I also now realize how fragile it can be too.
Yes.
And I've had a couple of clients even in my own website recently, like in the last few months, where the WordPress updated their sort of operating system, if you want a better word. Then PHP code on hosts updated to 7.0 version or whatever. And some of the plugins weren't yet updated. And some of the themes also were not updated. So that meant that you had these 4 or 5 things that were all not compatible with each other. And like if one did, the other didn't, and it was all sort of breaking down. So I guess I've learned now how fragile that can be. And even recently I did start looking at WordPress because they do have kind of directory type systems. And I thought, there you go.
Yeah, they will.
That's a nice, easy
I'm sure they do. They've got everything else.
Yeah, they do. And then I've played around with those, and then I could do a lot myself, but then I need like hundreds of different categories. And some of these off the shelf versions only have 5 categories. And then I looked at customizing those and changing the plugins themselves and making sort of more. We explored that. And so I've had quite a lot of trial and error along the way as well, even just recently with those few things. And there's a really good sort of directory plugin called Directorat or something like that.
Yep.
And I went, oh, that's there now. Surely it's time I can get my sort of system up. And then because I've got such a creative need for the way that the work is presented, I needed that customized. And then the two weren't talking together, so that sort of didn't quite gel. And then that's how I moved into getting, that sort of, I guess, search tool done as PHP custom coded thing.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
And but we've done it to match the front end of the main website theme as well. So they look like they're from the same family.
Yes.
And they'll sit on the same host, and it'll be sort of a button launches the other system, if you know what I mean.
Get it? Yep.
So that was sort of the whole journey. But along the way, I guess I can do more myself now than I ever imagined that I would. And actually, even in the very beginning, I'll be honest, I actually was even started building little, small, very simple websites for other clients just to get by. And ended up
on the WordPress itself.
Building, on WordPress itself, because I taught myself to do my own, and people are going, I love your website.
Nice.
Can you make one for me? And I went, actually, I probably could.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was making like about one a week or something.
Oh, interesting. Well, there you go.
Actually,
so it became a very
going.
powerful system.
It is powerful.
Yeah.
It is.
If you get a theme and with all the right plugins set up, from the start, then you can do quite a lot with it.
But you do have to say, you've got to be careful, and I think it's not scalable.
No, there are limitations there, and I think
there's limitations.
And from the outset, I think if you look at WordPress as a solution for a scalable business that you want 1 million people on it, that's not going to work for you at all. If you look at WordPress as a stopgap for an MVP to get you to market, to get product market fit, to test your product, to test your solution, to understand your business case, definitely an option for some people.
Yeah,
because it can deliver you. With plugins, like you said, there are plugins you can patch together and produce an outcome. And for some people, that outcome is the end business and it's the result. They don't need the custom solution. So it just it depends. There are other solutions you can use too, just not WordPress, but it just depends on what you're looking to achieve.
Speed as well.
It does. So it's good for testing and iterating.
I do agree with you. And I was, we've said before about testing the market. Like, honestly, if you can sell a product or a business with basically a, maintenance homepage.
Yes.
Even if it just says coming soon.
Nice.
And, call me here or fill in a form and I'll get back to you. If you can sell with that, then you've got a viable business. And then the rest of the marketing can come later on.
Yes.
So I really am a big fan of just a really simple one-pager. Don't do too much expense at the front just to see if you've got market. There you go. After this, you might start having stacks of people just do really simple one landing pages just to test the market, right?
So looking back at when you started, would you still have gone down the path you went with WordPress and trying to get that full system up and running? Or would you have done like a one-pager thing, try to do it all manual from the start for your MVP?
It's funny. I probably only learned that the manual thing was the way to go because of the mistake. But if I could go back again, I would actually just put that money into marketing it. Rather than build the tech, if you know what I mean, because I could have scaled a lot faster, putting that money into growth strategies. That's hindsight for you.
Oh, well, I think there's a lot of learning for people listening in because in reality, it's a business and it's not about technology at all. So you might deliver, yes, in the end, you decide on technology, but if you don't understand the business model or how it's all going to play out, what the operations are, it becomes very difficult to build a piece of technology. So I think it's important for people to understand too.
Oh, I love that you were saying that as a technology company to be saying it's not about technology, and it isn't so groundbreaking
at all.
It's about the customer and what they get out of what the outcomes are, not how it does it.
That's right. The technology is just
a tool.
Vehicle to get there.
It's an enabler. It's a scaler. It allows you to get to more people. But if you don't know who you're getting to, the market you're getting to, then it's not going to do anything for you. There's products that have been posted online. They spend $500,000 on them. they put it out there and they just think people are going to come, and there's a rude awakening that people just don't rock up to a tech product or whatever it might be and just start using it. You still need to market this thing.
I know, it's fascinating, but there's so many really cool ways to test your market now. And like I'm actually doing marketing for a really fantastic tech product at the moment. And, you know, a lot of people think, you know, there's certain, I guess, marketing tactics that they have heard people talk about. So that's what they ask for. And a lot of times I go, actually, you know, don't think what you're asking for is what you actually need. Let's just go and, you know, over here instead of over there. And, you know, there's some really new, fantastic tech solutions helping with marketing as well.
Oh, they definitely
now,
are. There's a lot of competition in that space too. Yeah.
And I'm learning a bit in the process too. So right now I'm a beta tester for a technology that does LinkedIn automation.
Okay.
So it allows you to connect with like 100 people a day that are super qualified.
Yes.
And the results have been absolutely amazing. So I've basically built my whole business, where I've come to now through this technology. But I've also learned through the process of what it's like to have a beta product, how much the support team, you know, you have to have open conversation with them quite a lot. And like I give them a suggestion. It would be really nice if I could report this way or that way, or have you got a little possibility of a future extension of the service by doing this or that? And, you know, I really love that. So I feel like that has been useful for me as well. And I'm going to have to replicate that. So I have some little secret early start users who can give me the feedback too. I don't know whether you do a thing like that. That's super useful.
Yes, so beta testing is massive, especially when you're building any product really. So if you want to put it out to market, generally, get a test bed. And it might be 50, 100 people. It could be 10. It doesn't have to be a big number here. Yeah. But they will give you some general, and if they're your right target market, they're your customer base, they actually need your product, they're the ones that are going to give you the best feedback. So you can iterate and evolve the product. We run a product in pharmacy. So we've got a SaaS product in pharmacy, and we originally built that with a customer to deliver a solution for them. And then we've continuously sold that product into a couple of customers now, and basically re-engineered and evolved the product with our customer base and using them as like our beta testing. It's another way to think about technology, continually evolve it with your customers to better suit their needs, because everyone's slightly different, but you've got to be conscious that you don't overdo it, but you just, it's something, especially early days of product development, evolve it with your customers, get them to understand it, even if they're beta testers, they're at live, whatever it is. You need to continuously evolve and support your customers.
Yeah, they're the ones that end up using it at the end of the day. So if it doesn't do the right thing for them, stick around.
Correct.
Oh, that's a very good point. You've also touched on something else that I reckon is the next podcast that I'd listen to, which is the legalities of, you know, who owns what when and you come to your coding and things.
IP.
Years ago, the IP rules, that would be a whole topic in itself. I helped, when I was working for an ad agency years ago, I helped develop some technology that I would love to rebuild now. And it's the long-term game is putting that within my long game here.
Okay.
And it was just so fantastic and cool. And when I left there, I wanted to, sort of start a business around this tech and the IP.
Yes.
And I found out through the process that the person who did the coding under my instruction, my idea, the whole way it worked and everything, which was my brain and my thinking, that they owned it. And all these years, they've never even wanted to entertain any kind of discussion about kind of purchasing the right to it or anything like that. And all I've done is actually shut it down and not allowed it to grow. And I saw such potential for it. And I'm still to this day would go, it'd be quite good to, you know, modernize exactly the same process.
IP is a very interesting point. So
that's really interesting.
Just from obviously we know this space a little bit from our details of IP. If you have an IP in your contract, basically, yes, you are designing the end result, but the developer is putting their IP to develop the solution for you. And that could be algorithms behind that you have no knowledge of that's delivering outcomes. That's where the IP gets a bit grey, because technically they're writing, think of them as an author of a book. They're writing the author. Just because you guided them on a story or a journey you wanted to get to, it doesn't mean you own the rights to the way they've done it. So that's how IP sits. It's similar, like if you author a book, you're on the IP. If you author code, you're on the IP. Now, all through legal contracts, that can be changed depending on what you want to do. There's models where you can license IP and then ability to commercialize it. There's ability for developers to assign IP over to you. But you need to be clear on that up front.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, and to even know that you have to,
access to the source code.
Yeah, access to the source is important, especially if you want to commercialize and then continue to grow a product and want to build your own team. So you need to know where you want to be long term. You have to think about this really from a technical perspective. Okay, am I just building this product for my business? I'm happy to just utilize this, and IP is not a big thing. That's okay. That's fine. I can continue like that. But if I want to commercialize a product, if I'm looking to scale this thing internationally, you really want to be owning the IP rights to access the source code, because at some point you might want to bring that source code in and build your own team behind it. So you just got to understand where you're going and what the trajectory of your business looks like too.
Yeah, that's a really complex way forward, but I really love definitely how you are talking about the business needs, right from the beginning. Sounds like I need to come and talk to you when I get to the stage of doing
whenever you're ready. From our ready,
we'll be here for you.
Yes,
awesome. But in the meantime, it is a little bit like making do, really, and just sort of vaguely, look, it's a stretch every time, I think, because, I need the thing that's a little bit more expensive than I've got the funds to pay for all the time. So that's definitely a common problem I think a lot of people have when they're in growth mode. And like you say, that's where investment is quite good.
That's where investment can help you. If you've got a case for investment, a good market, an understanding of your market, you become, and potential to scale and build a big business, become investable. And because of the main knowledge you've built over the past years, you're even more investable than you were 2 years ago, because you actually understand your clients now. So it's something to think about and just get a handle on now, because potentially you could scale this thing tomorrow if you can prove the market, understand the customers, and just sell the investor in on the journey. There is an opportunity.
And you also have to be careful, because the people who do have even though I was first, there's someone who's copied what I'm doing in America, and I know that they're actually like a step ahead at the moment with turnover. But I don't know that they've got the full vision of the whole thing. But I've gone, damn it, they had, they've obviously had money behind it from the beginning.
Well, no idea is ever owned by one. No one ever owns the idea. An idea can come about anywhere. We just stumbled across DevReady over in the US that got branded, and they're recruiting developers. So, and how did they find out about, apparently they've been doing it for a number of years too. So it's interesting. So no one owns, an idea is an idea. Let's be real. We all have similar problems and similar timeframes and similar economies and similar markets. There's 7 billion people on the planet. No one can profess to say they can have the most unique idea that no one's ever thought about.
That's true. And that's probably for me why I answered the question I did about what I would put my money in instead. And I think that getting that marketing done up front, getting that, having that growth and traction earlier, I would definitely do that differently.
Oh, very interesting.
As well.
Yeah. So if you go back and have a look at 2 years ago, we probably had this conversation, but what are 3 tips you would go and tell Anne 2 years ago about where to start?
I think definitely it would be having somebody smarter than me to drive the technology part of it.
Okay.
Like, I've become really tech savvy now, but at the time I wasn't, and I was completely out of my depth. So I can see where I really messed up with that.
Okay.
And potentially it's, even some advisory as a starting point. Like, if you're doing what you're doing and I could have called you and said, hey, what do you think about this?
Yes.
I would have valued that greatly. And even this whole perspective that, you make sure you've got the market there first.
Yes.
Like, I had the numbers around it and it sort of made sense, but I didn't have the sort of proof. I was building it before
you proved the market?
Yeah, before I proved the market, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like, had all the numbers that said that there was viability, but it's not the same as actually getting people to ring you.
Correct.
You know, because people will say, that's a good idea. You should do that. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. But that's different than people saying, yes, I'm going to buy it.
It is a very different thing.
You know,
definitely.
very different. So I would definitely get that advisory up front. I would absolutely never use one of those big crowdsourced platforms again.
Okay.
Like, they're just not proven talent, and I feel like it cost me a lot of money over the years.
Okay.
And a lot of angst as well, just by not having the right people on board. And I would definitely, put more into marketing.
You gave us 4 tips there, so it's...
Oh, was that 4?
Get us some advisors around us. Market research, you touched upon that quite a bit. So do your market research, understand your market, understand your product market fit. Yeah. You also said no crowdsourcing, so websites.
Yeah.
Just stay away from I won't name them, but if you're going to look for a freelancer or something like that, one of those websites.
Yeah.
And then
I'd go to me if I had me back then.
And then marketing. But I think if you flipped it all around, what you would say was maybe do some market research first. Talk to some tech advisors to see if I should be building anything to begin with. Start marketing this product, build the need, and then maybe go back and invest in the tech. So that was probably an angle that you've done now. So you're probably at a point where you're starting to clearly invest back into some technology.
Yeah. And I'm also doing it more conservatively now as well.
Okay.
So it's just that one kind of module or one improvement at a time.
I think that's good advice.
I think that's going to be good. Yeah.
Yes.
You've learned the hard way. Yeah.
We do. We try and do too much, and especially when it gets to tech. Costs a lot to build a lot of technology, but it doesn't, when you look at the scheme of things, it doesn't cost a lot to build a little module and incrementally do things. Yeah. Cost the same amount over years, but at least you can focus your energy on the most important things, because we can get lost in scope and overscope products and overbuild products, and then people use 10, 20% of it, and the rest is just sunk costs. And you don't want to be there if you're building technology.
And like you said too, Andrew, definitely having that long game, like understanding what the long game looks like. So anything that you do in modules has got the ability to grow or be plugged into the rest. So you don't do it as a standalone thing and then have to rebuild again.
That's right. Yeah. So from just a little bit of advice from us, yes, you can start with WordPress to build something, but the way we like to build tech is build bare bones minimum and a scalable platform, especially if you're looking long term. So it gives us flexibility to evolve. Yes, we could use WordPress for bits, but if you're looking to deliver a custom solution long term, depends on your model. If you want to here's a potential journey. You could go and build a WordPress version, set that up, prove it, go look for investment, build your real product. That's one option.
Yeah.
Other option is you bootstrap the real product from the beginning and you start building just the core tech, what's going to get you from A to B now, and then B to C, B to D. Incrementally build your MVP as you go on a platform that is scalable. So then, it's not junkware. If you want to bootstrap it, that would be a recommendation from us. But you need the right people to advise you on that. You can't just jump in, because you can get sucked into an ever increasing scope and it becomes too expensive to build.
And I think if I was qualifying why I'm doing a hybrid at the moment with some WordPress and some custom, I think it's really mainly because I can do it myself and because of this situation, I've taught myself to become quite tech savvy now. So that's actually making me able to afford to do the other bit better, because I'm not having to pay a developer to do that.
Yeah, so you can do the WordPress stuff.
Yeah, but I definitely think that's a unique situation. I don't think most people would be in that situation. So I would be advising they don't go there. Don't do it for the sake of the technology. You're probably better off doing the whole thing long term. But at the moment, that's a lot of money that I'm saving. Yeah,
no, that's very. In the end, we can either invest time or money, and sometimes we have to invest time, and that's the choice we have. So, but hats off to you to actually going down that track and pulling this apart and getting your teeth sunk into doing some stuff, especially from a WordPress perspective. it's not the most complex stuff to work in, but if you have no idea, it's challenging and you need to learn it. And it's like anything, we need to learn, test, gauge, understand it, and evolve from there.
No, definitely. And every theme and every plugin, they're all sort of unique. So you do have to learn in those as well. Anyway, if you like a challenge, which I obviously do, I've been able to survive it, and still smiling. But boy, it has not been fun. I guarantee there's been tears in that beginning time.
Well, there's always on any journey.
Great way to challenge yourself.
Yeah, not that sort of challenge. Thanks. I've had enough of them.
And I want to thank you for today, because you've allowed us to step into the world of the startup founder and where the evolution of that. And you're obviously not at the end of it. You're in the middle of where you want to be. And not many people allow you to jump in there. So I want to thank you for just sharing your journey to date, what your plans are moving forward and where you're headed, what's worked, what hasn't. Really appreciate you just coming and sharing that story so far.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. It's actually funny to talk about it with people who get my little nerdy world for a moment. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Anne. Thanks for that, Anne. Now, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, learn about suits and sneakers, how do they find you?
Thanks. I appreciate you asking. So it's suits and sneakers, like all written out, and .global. So I'm global.
Nice.
But right now, today, it's going to have a maintenance window up because I'm about a couple of days off getting the new thing out. So keep an eye out for it.
Perfect. And one of the things that intrigued me about your offering was having a coffee with a marketing honcho, someone that's been in marketing for 20, 30 years and can actually pull apart some of the stuff that you're doing. And I thought that was very interesting offering. So share a brief minute on that, and we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, Tom. I call it an espresso shot, actually. So it's like... And this is exactly what we were saying before all that time ago. I wish that I had someone that who was smarter than me, I could just ask the question.
Yes.
You know, what is it that I actually really need right now, not what I think I need?
Yes.
And so I've got so many amazing suits and sneakers, I guess, that are top of their game. And if you could just pick their brain for an hour, it's amazing what insights you'll get to drive your business forward. And because they don't have to do any reports and fancy presentations with graphic design or whatever.
Probably where all the time's spent, but
that's
anyway.
Definitely, that's where all the money goes. So you're getting like the big brand thinking, but it's making it accessible to smaller businesses. And, you know, there might be a whiteboard with a scribble and, you know, pull the product apart and have market insights that have come from the big brands, but all in this, you know, brain dump for an hour, and it's recorded on video. Any whiteboards or any templates or anything that's shared, you keep. And so it's just, a one-off hour. And from, there you might do other things, but you might also be empowered to go and do it all yourself too.
That's a brilliant little idea, and I think it's great for especially small business out there that needs a little bit of help in this space. So go definitely check it out, suitsandsneakers.global. So thanks again, Anne. I really appreciate you coming on the DevReady podcast, sharing your journey and a little bit about your business and where you're headed. So I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Cheers.